They called him crazy. They called his shelter garbage scraped together by a man who had lost absolutely everything. They laughed from warm windows while he worked in the bitter cold with nothing but his hands and whatever the city had discarded. Then the storm came, the kind that kills people, that freezes pipes inside expensive walls, that shuts down entire cities and sends emergency crews scrambling through streets they no longer recognize. When it was finally over, when the snow stopped and the silence broke, and people came outside to see the damage, they found Marcus not just alive, but warm. Warmer, some said quietly, than they had been inside their own homes. This is the story of what he built, how he built it, and why everything you have ever been told about staying warm in the cold is missing the most important piece of all. There is a man in this story that this city did not deserve. His name in this telling is Marcus Earl. He was 53 years old, a former construction worker, a former father of two, a former resident of a two-bedroom apartment on the east side before a workplace injury took his income, then his insurance, then his apartment, and then, as these things often do, quietly and without ceremony, his dignity in the eyes of everyone around him. By the time winter arrived, Marcus had been living on the streets for 2 full years. 2 years of sleeping in doorways with one eye open, 2 years of riding the night bus in long loops just to stay warm until the driver told him to get off. 2 years of learning slowly and methodically the way a true craftsman absorbs a trade through repetition and consequence, exactly how cold works, exactly where it enters a body, and exactly how a man with nothing can begin to fight it. He chose his spot carefully, a narrow gap between 2 brick buildings on the east side of the city, sheltered from the prevailing north wind on 3 sides by walls that had been absorbing and slowly releasing the city's own ambient heat for over 100 years. Other people walked past that alley every single day and saw nothing useful. A gap, a shortcut, a dark place to avoid after sundown. Marcus walked past it and saw architecture. He saw a natural wind block. He saw decades of stored thermal mass in old brick. He saw the beginning of something that could keep a person alive through whatever this winter decided to throw at the city. And that instinct, that ability to look at what everyone else dismissed and see genuine potential, was the very first thing the city never gave him credit for. He started building 6 weeks before the storm hit. Nobody knew a record blizzard was coming. The weather apps were not saying anything yet. Marcus was not building because of a forecast. He was building because he had been cold enough and desperate enough and awake enough at 3 in the morning, staring at his own frozen breath, to understand that preparation is not paranoia. Preparation is the only form of power available to a man. The system has already decided it is finished with. So what did he actually build? Go ahead and picture it right now. Picture exactly what you assume a homeless man's shelter looks like. A sagging tent, maybe. A pile of wet blankets stuffed into a corner. Now, throw that image away entirely, because what Marcus built looked nothing like that. He constructed a low, triangular A-frame structure using salvaged 2x4s pulled from a demolition site 3 blocks away. The peak of the entire structure stood barely 3 feet off the ground. You could not stand inside it. You could not even sit fully upright inside it. And that was not a limitation. That was a deliberate engineering decision that most people scrolling through expensive outdoor gear reviews have never once stopped to genuinely consider. Here is where it gets critical, and this is the part that should stop you cold. The smaller the interior volume of a shelter, the faster a single human body can raise the temperature inside it to something survivable. Your body produces heat continuously, roughly the same thermal output as a 60-watt bulb running all night, every single night, whether you feel it or not. The question is never whether you have heat. You always have heat. The only question that matters when the temperature outside is trying to kill you is whether your shelter is designed to capture and hold what your body is already producing for free. A large tent bleeds that heat into too much empty space. A small, tight, well-insulated structure turns your own body into the furnace that heats it. Marcus understood this not because he had read a wilderness survival manual. He understood it because the cold had been his instructor for 2 years, and cold is the most honest teacher there is. The frame went up in a single afternoon. Then came the insulation, and this is where Marcus showed the city, and every person who had stopped to laugh, exactly how badly they had misjudged him. He layered the exterior of the frame with flattened cardboard salvaged from behind the grocery store 2 streets over, 3 layers thick. Each layer was offset from the one beneath it, the way a skilled roofer staggers shingles so that no gap in one layer aligns with a gap in the layer below. Cardboard is one of the most effective insulating materials available to any human being. The reason your expensive puffer jacket keeps you warm has nothing to do with magic or proprietary fabric technology. It is trapped air, millions of microscopic pockets of air suspended between thin material layers, each one slowing the transfer of heat from your body to the cold world outside. Cardboard does precisely the same thing. Think of it this way. Your puffer jacket is essentially a wearable cardboard box. Marcus had not bought one. He had built one, a shelter-sized one, at 0 cost. On top of the cardboard went salvaged plastic sheeting, sealed at every single seam with duct tape he had collected piece by piece over 3 months from construction scraps and dumpster finds. Waterproofing. This step is not optional and not secondary. Wet insulation is not insulation anymore. Wet cardboard, wet clothing, a wet sleeping bag. None of these keep you warm. They press cold moisture directly against your skin, and they accelerate heat loss so dramatically that wet insulation in freezing temperatures is more dangerous than no insulation at all. Marcus had learned this the hard way, the same way he had learned everything out there by surviving the lesson itself. The plastic went on tight, sealed at every edge, and the structure became something neither rain nor driven snow could penetrate. But the floor is the detail that nobody who walked past and snapped photos ever thought to consider. It is the detail that separates someone who has read about cold survival from someone who has actually lived inside it for 2 winters straight. Marcus laid the ground surface in deliberate, specific layers. He put flattened cardboard down first, covering every square inch of the bare concrete beneath the structure. Then he spread a layer of dry newspaper evenly across that cardboard. Then 2 thick moving blankets he found discarded outside a storage facility. Beneath all of it, 2-inch scrap wood blocks elevated the entire sleeping surface off the ground. Because in winter, the ground is not passive. The ground is a predator. Bare concrete in freezing temperatures conducts heat away from a sleeping body faster than the cold air above ever could. Thermal conductivity in dense materials like concrete and packed soil is orders of magnitude higher than in still, trapped air. Ground insulation is not a comfort upgrade. It is the most important structural decision in any cold weather shelter. Marcus had figured this out not from a book, but from sleeping on cold ground enough times to feel precisely where the warmth disappeared to. Drop a comment right now if this is already reshaping something in the way you think about warmth and survival, because what comes next explains exactly how most modern people got talked out of understanding any of this. People laughed at Marcus. Of course they did. A black man in worn work gloves, down on his knees in a city alley, with a salvaged tape measure, laying cardboard in precise offset rows with the focused intensity of someone who understood exactly what he was doing. A city maintenance worker snapped a photo on their lunch break. It circulated on social media by afternoon. Five-star cardboard accommodations, someone wrote. Luxury trash architecture, wrote someone else. Hundreds of comments, almost none of them kind. Not one, not a single one, actually curious. Here is where it gets worse, because the mockery was not the worst part. The worst part was the certainty behind it, the absolute, completely unexamined confidence that a homeless black man crouching in an alley could not possibly know something the people laughing at him did not. That kind of certainty is not just cruel, it is dangerous. It is the exact same assumption that causes people to walk into emergencies wholly unprepared because they spent their whole lives believing that real knowledge lives in expensive gear, in apps and branded equipment, and not in the hands and the hard-won experience of someone the city decided long ago did not count. When the storm came, that assumption failed every single one of them. The storm arrived on a Tuesday morning in the eerie silence that always precedes something catastrophic. Meteorologists would later call it a generational event. 41 inches of snow in 36 hours, wind gusts that snapped mature tree branches like dry pencils, a wind chill driving the effective temperature to -28 degrees Fahrenheit, cold capable of producing frostbite on exposed skin in under 10 minutes. This was not a storm you could negotiate with or wait out comfortably. It found every gap in every wall and every poorly sealed window frame in the city, and it reached straight through. Pipes burst inside houses. Heating systems failed inside apartment buildings that had been standing for decades. The city's emergency shelter network, designed for ordinary cold snaps, not for this, exhausted its available cots within the first 6 hours. People were turned away at the door, into this. And Marcus, in his alley, in his 3-foot A-frame of layered and offset cardboard and sealed plastic sheeting and an elevated insulated floor, with the entrance oriented deliberately away from the north wind, Marcus was warm, not barely surviving warm, not teeth-chattering, but technically alive warm. Warm enough to sleep soundly through the worst hours of the storm. Warm enough that when he finally crawled out the following morning into a blinding white silence, the temperature difference between inside the shelter and the frozen air outside hit him like stepping from a heated room into a walk-in freezer. His body had been generating heat all night. His shelter had refused, at every layer and every sealed seam, to let it escape. That is the complete system. No electricity, no gas, no subscription, no product. Just physics applied with patience by a man this city had decided was invisible. He was not alone by the time the worst of it passed. Deja, 26 years old, had been sleeping in a nearby parking structure for 3 weeks. She found her way to Marcus's shelter when the parking structure's unbroken wind tunnel became unsurvivable. An older man the neighborhood called Bishop arrived 2 hours after her, fingers blanched white, breathing shallow and rapid. Marcus had designed the floor space with exactly this possibility in mind. He had left room because he had been out there long enough to know with absolute certainty that survival on the street is never, not once, a solo exercise. You share what you know, you share what you build, you always leave room. If this is shifting something in how you see this man, his shelter, and what your own city walks past every single day, hit that like button right now, because the next part is the part no one in the survival gear industry wants to reach you. Here is the real villain. And it is not a person. It is a set of assumptions so thoroughly embedded in the modern world that most people never once think to question them. The assumption that warmth is a product, that it comes from a store, a brand, a labeled device with a warranty and a replacement cycle. The outdoor survival and emergency preparedness industries generate tens of billions in annual revenue, and a substantial portion of that value depends entirely on you never realizing that the most effective cold weather shelter principles cost nothing, have been proven across thousands of years of human survival, and require nothing you cannot find discarded behind a grocery store. There is the expensive sleeping bag rated for temperatures it routinely fails to handle. There is the compact emergency mylar blanket that shifts loose the moment you move and loses much of its effectiveness within the first hour of use. These products are designed to be cheap enough to sell at massive volume and just barely effective enough that the buyer does not immediately demand a refund. They are not engineered around the physics of human warmth. They are engineered around repeat purchase cycles. Think about when the shift happened. The modern emergency gear industry scaled up dramatically in the second half of the 20th century, precisely as urbanization disconnected entire generations from the practical survival knowledge their grandparents considered basic common sense. The timing is not a coincidence. The industry did not create a need. It filled the vacuum left behind when that knowledge stopped being passed down, and then it charged you for the replacement. The failure is not yours. If any piece of cold weather gear has ever failed you when you genuinely needed it, that is not a reflection of your judgment. That is the system delivering exactly what it was built to deliver, enough to feel credible in a store, not enough to make you genuinely independent of it. They designed it that way, and then they found a way to make you feel like the problem was you. So here is what you do instead. Here is what Marcus knew, stated plainly, in the order it matters most. First, shrink your space and seal your floor. In any cold emergency, move into the smallest enclosed room available, a bathroom, a closet, an interior room with no exterior walls. Every additional square foot your body must heat is energy and warmth leaving you. Hang a blanket across the doorway to reduce the volume. Then, floor first, always floor first, lay cardboard, folded blankets, anything with trapped air pockets under your sleeping surface before anything goes on top of you. The ground is where you lose the most heat. Stop it there before anything else. Second, build inward if you have time. Pitch a tent inside that small room. Put your sleeping bag inside the tent. That sequence, room, then tent, then bag, creates two additional insulating boundaries between your body heat and the cold pressing in from outside. Each layer traps air your warmth has already heated. You are replicating inside your own home the exact layered logic Marcus built with salvaged wood and discarded cardboard in an alley. Third, and this one costs you nothing but a single night, test what you already own. Set up whatever sleeping bag or emergency blanket you are counting on the bare floor of your coldest room and sleep in it tonight. What that experience teaches you will tell you more about your real cold weather preparedness than 1,000 gear reviews ever could. And remember this, position any shelter entrance perpendicular to the prevailing wind, never directly facing it. Wind is not just cold air. Wind is a pump. It actively pulls warm air out of any opening it can find. One simple adjustment in how you orient an entrance can be the difference between a shelter that works and one that slowly bleeds everything your body produces into the night. Marcus Earl was not a fool. He was not building garbage. He was not a cautionary story about what poverty does to a person's mind. He was a construction worker who applied everything he knew about construction to the most urgent problem in front of him, using the materials the city discarded in the same casual way the city had discarded him. He was a thermal engineer without a license, an architect working in cardboard and scrap wood, a man who understood the physics of warmth well enough to stay alive and to keep two others alive through a storm that overwhelmed buildings, furnaces, and the city's entire emergency infrastructure. He solved the oldest problem human beings have in an alley with patience and physics and the hard, irreplaceable education that comes only from having absolutely no other choice. The knowledge was never lost. It was just never considered worth passing on to the people who needed it most. If that sits with you the way it should, subscribe to this channel. We are not here to sell you anything. We are here to recover what the modern world stepped over on its way to the next profitable convenience every single week. Tell us in the comments, what is the coldest situation you have ever had to survive, and what did it teach you? The next video goes even deeper into the survival knowledge the modern world buried, and we want to know what you already carry.